started, only in the interest of time. Plenty of seats down front. You don't have to sit up front. There's plenty of space.
Must be in church.
Yes. So what we get going. We'll leave the door open as best as we can, recognizing we might get a little bit of hallway noise, but some people might be on route. Okay, well, let's go. Well, good. We're still morning. Good morning. My name is John Day. I'm the Director of Member Products and Programs on staff with the IEEE. And today I'm joined with my colleague, Justine Spack, who is a relatively new member of the IEEE staff family. Having been with us now for 4 months. 4 months, okay. And I want to call attention to Justine because this product, IEEE Collabratec, represents a new direction for IEEE, but also IEEE's commitment to making it a success. And that in launching this, we had to have the appropriate support to make an enterprise like this possible. So Justine, if you'll flip through. Today's outline, this training comes on a couple fronts. First and foremost, this Region 4-6 is the first volunteer meeting in which we have started going out to socialize with the volunteer leadership. So I have a couple favors, especially of the newcomers. We have a couple who saw last week. One, I'll go through it and then convey the information, but at the end, I want to come back and ask you feedback about the presentation, about the scope, the depth, because we're going to other region meetings and we want to know if you think it's too much or not enough, that thing. So I'll be coming back at the end, separate from the content, just on the presentation itself. But today, I want to go into the board direction. Why are we here today? Why are you learning about this? As well as where are we with the pilot status as of today? Some feature highlights, get into a little bit about the communities within Collabratec, and then some hands-on training. Now, a couple of things. We've been experiencing difficulties with the internet connection. So if you have your laptop open, you might want to sync up with a hotel. It may be better now. We don't have as many people in here. But do know that we did have some folks who were trying to do things in the last training, and they were either hitting dead links or things weren't working properly. The other thing, this is a pilot, and it's new. It's not completely done. Parts of it aren't working. I need everyone to note that you have a sheet, a deck of paper in front of you, and if there's feedback that you would like to give us, please keep that list running. Alternatively, there is a feedback link that is persistent on the Collabratec website, and you can always click that and submit feedback directly through Collabratec. In fact, that's probably the preferred way because then that gets funneled in to the larger database and can be reviewed and sorted. So why are we here and what is IEEE Collabratec? First and foremost, IEEE Collabratec is IEEE's professional networking and collaboration platform. It's been a long time coming. And really where it came from was a decision by the board of directors that we needed an enterprise approach to doing business and organization. Leading up to Collabratec, what was happening was MGA was about ready to build a collaboration experience for the members. It was going to be integrated through a next generation IEEE. Separately on the publishing side, because of trends in the publishing industry, where publishers were buying collaboration platforms, there was a need from the publishing side to assess that, and we did not have a solution for that. So we had different activities going on within the Institute, and the board of directors took the decision that rather than having disparate activities, was there a way to take a step back and look across the entire enterprise and say, can we put something together that will combine both the professional network, then with function-specific applications on top of it for these various functions, such as publishing, collaborative offering, such as professional networking, such as career development, that could be plugged into it, number one. The other charter from the board of directors as well was we did not want to go out and necessarily rebuild stuff that was already out there in the marketplace. So another challenge and charge to Collabratec was create an integrated experience that could leverage tools and utilities that were already on the marketplace. motivation behind it, the reason why, that was pressing was a couple-fold. First, on the membership side, as many of you perhaps know, we, on a regular basis, every 3 years, we do a comprehensive member segmentation and satisfaction study. It's by far the largest market research on the membership side that IEEE does. And we get down into specific activities and offerings that we have as an organization. And what was very glaring was the importance that members place on why they're here, and our degree of satisfaction in what we're delivering. So, specific to professional networking, and there were other facets that we measured on, but specific to professional networking, importance, it ranks rather high for why individuals join the organization and why they stay. Sadly, however, from the members' perspective, their satisfaction is that we're doing a mediocre job in meeting that expectation. So that was a primary motivator for how we as an organization, what do we need to do a better job facilitate professional networking, especially in the digital age where most people are connecting together online as their primary, and then with in-person activities, usually a supplemental activity. Secondly, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of activity taking place in the publishing arena. We have mergers and acquisitions that are taking place between large publishers, such as an Elsevier, and then collaborative platforms like a Mendeley. And this is happening throughout because there's a new trend called collaborative authoring, and collaborative authoring tools where multiple people may come into the same document and author at the same time. IEEE did not have a tool set in that space to offer its publishers. And so that was the motivation from the publishing side. So hence why this bubbled up to the board and said, we need to do something that's holistic and at the same time not rebuild stuff that's already in the marketplace. So a few objectives were laid out. I won't read through these, but fundamentally, how do we do a better job strengthening connections within our organization? How do we remotely collaborate in a seamless way? What were the objectives behind that? And then how do we accelerate research to meet the needs of today's publishers and authors who really want to expedite the collaborative process with each other, but as well as remotely? Now, while Collabratec may be new, it really builds on who we are as an organization. When you stop to think of the velocity of what's taking place at IEEE on any given year, on any given day, it is very profound. And when you sit back and take stock at the great potential of what we can do as an organization, if we get our act together and start getting people behind one area working together rather than in different buckets, it presents a profound opportunity. So these are just some of the metrics that show the scale and scope of individuals that are engaged in the organization on a regular basis. What Collabratec really forced us to do, however, was rethink the engagement paradigm. The traditional approach that we have taken so far is we tend to bucket people. We have members over here, section members, we say consultants, we explore users, standards developers, authors. We tend to do that because that's how we're organized as an organization. Thank you. What Collabratec challenged us to do was to take a user-centric approach and recognize that some individuals are engaged on many different fronts of the organization, and that engagement changes over time. So that how do we develop an experience that makes the user first and then plugs IEEE into those interests, be them technical or geographic. There's also an important recognition of harnessing the power of users. Users of our services can help grow the organization. So typical with any social network, users can invite IEEE colleagues into Collabratec with a minimum of requirement, and I'll get into that in a bit. And we anticipate that once users start getting in there, we'll start having a viral effect where users of Collabratec will start with, usually with their colleagues first, is how we introduce it. But this is a profound opportunity as an organization where we build on traditional viral capabilities to start introducing individuals who may not be engaged in IEEE into the organization. As far as the development progress, where are we with the pilot? We're right here, first quarter 2015. And we are now starting to roll it out to the volunteer leadership after about a year and a half of development. In IEEE terms, this is a pretty fast pace to go from concept to pilot in 18 months. Okay, and not only that, but to recognize that this is a unified front across the major boards of the organization to make this possible. Yeah.
Oh, can anyone sign up for the pilot?
Yes. The question was, can anyone sign up for the pilot? So, again, the board moved fast on this. I mean, this had been bubbling up. There had been lots of requests for this across the organization, but it was time for the board to take action. But I wanted to take action as a unified whole, not all these piece part activities that were taking place at different organization units. So we launched the pilot, and it is just that. Basically, we're getting the capability set out in front of a larger group. And I should say, even though it's a pilot and the usability, we're testing the usability throughout the whole development process, we were constantly going out and having individuals come in and test it, and then taking that feedback and incorporating it into the development. So it's been an ongoing iterative process from the development cycle. We were at Sections Congress. For those who were there, you saw the booth. The pilot launched, and here we are. Now we're starting to broaden out the focus, the user base, to get a much more wider feedback from the users. So on this score, let me just give a very quick update on the pilot. Our approach to the pilot, what we did was we had to figure out a way to bring individuals into the pilot so that once they got there, there would be things that would be of interest to them. We did not want to drive a bunch of people in there and there would be nothing of interest to them. So what we did is we decided to build some communities within Collabratec. And a cross-section of communities. We wanted to have examples of technical, examples of geographic, examples of those based on activities and events or persona-based. And so we collaborated with the volunteer leadership with the technical activities and geographic activities, proposed some geographic communities that we could start with. So the region directors actually went out, and I actually sent a note out to them saying, please give me 2 cities in your region who you think would have the critical mass that we could start out just from a pilot. And so they did that. They went out and they selected 2 cities, and then we then followed up with the section chairs to get them going. So that's why when you log into Collabratec, you see, you're probably trying to make sense, why is there one from Columbia and Austin and here? It's because those were the cities that the region director said, let's start with these. We had to start somewhere. So that's how we went about it. Meanwhile, technical activities also said, where should we start? What should we put out there in the pilot? So they came up with some topics in the cloud computing, big data space. And these happen to mirror some of the New Directions Committee type activities that are taking place. So that's what we did. So we configured the communities just so we actually did that. And then after we did that, then we went out with campaigns from IEEE to invite members from those geographic spaces that matched these technical communities, and we asked them to come in. And that way, by the time they got in there, we knew that there would be communities of interest to them. So that would give us a good base to start. Usage at a glance, we obviously are tracking this very carefully. Again, you're seeing just 4 weeks of data here. We're just getting started. But as of last Monday, January 19th, we're at 725 users in the pilot. And I'm pleased to announce, as of 3 minutes ago, we're at 1,033. That happened on a combination of factors. Why we went like that. First of all, the IEEE Extreme Programming Competition community launched last week. That created a lot of buzz and excitement, and we probably brought in 150 users just because of IEEE Extreme. And then certainly, when we came here, we were at about 950 as of yesterday, so we've had some growth right here. Barry Shoup was the 1,000th person, and he just, it's one of those cases where he's just hanging around at the right time to nab him for that. So that's where we are, and just to assure folks that we are watching this closely, watching the behavior, because being new to us, all this data is important, because then we start getting an idea of what the platform is doing, what is causations are happening, what's the variations between users and invitations. Go ahead. And we can start tracking these things that happen. So as you can see, the users are growing. As the users are growing, we're seeing the invitation to connect grow. And then we're having the median connections for users. So we're starting to formulate our own intelligence of what's happening, which will give us some predictive capabilities that we can start saying, okay, that this type of slope that happens when you bring in these types of users. As well, we're tracking community engagement very carefully. As of now, well, I should say as of the 19th, 65% of all the users belong to at least one community within Collabratec. The average number of users in a community as of January 19 is 78. So we're watching this very closely so we can see how the trajectory goes as we expand with the pilot. And that's very important to us because it gives us some idea when we go for the full launch what we might expect for behavior and allow us predictability. These are the communities that are launched. All the way to the right are the number of participants. So as you can see, we have a pretty good cross-section, geographic communities, technical communities, persona-based communities on the publishing side. And through no surprise, communities that have a broader topic, such as the All Society Tech Forum, the Collabratec Pilot Community, Author Lab, tend to be larger because they're larger audiences that transcend geography. I do know that the IEEE Extreme competition, which started last week, it's right here right now. At next week's reporting, we're going to see that shoot right up probably to be in the top 5. We are testing, as I mentioned, we're the pilot testing, and this is some of the preliminary feedback that we're getting from the users. There's some areas that are working very well, and we've had that same feedback here. It's quite intuitive. Once you get in there, it's pretty easy to find your way around. But there's areas for improvement. Certainly, there's some imaging. The setup screens are not as intuitive as they need to be. So our developers, as we speak, are back there looking at that whole setup process and how we can streamline that to make that more intuitive. Likewise, even with the network and the career development features, again, what has tested well. You'll see an overall rating of 7.6. It's our objective on the product side that we would not go out with a large push until minimally we hit 8.0. We are really focused on making this a quality experience before we take it out larger to the larger audience. Areas for improvement, again, the Q&A section has to be built out in the communities, no surprise there. And then some of the enhancements around profile and people search. Some of the users had difficulties there as well, so we're looking at those. On the author research features, in many ways, this part of Collabratec is pushing the envelope more. This is blazing new territory for IEEE. And some of the connections and the integrations that IEEE is trying to do. So it's no surprise that there's many more areas for improvement here because it is really new territory for the organization. So I'm going to go through a series of slides on the feature highlights just to give you, if you never had a chance to go in and all you saw with the deck, here are some of the major features. Now, in the interest of time, I should say I'm only going to be able to focus on the networking capabilities. There's a lot in Collabratec, and if you have not seen it already, you should have seen some tips and tools. Doug has it right here. Tool tips. That's available as PDFs, and Justine will speak to where you can find those afterwards. But they drill down in more detail on all of this. So for the time being, I'm just going to focus up in this area. But what's important here to realize is many of the capabilities of Collabratec are available to anyone who logs in. The board took a deliberate decision to launch basically a platform that would be open. And then it would make distinguished member access if you're a member once you got into it, member identity and access. And that was a decision of the board, one, because it recognizes not all of our authors are necessarily members. It recognizes that it's a great opportunity here to invite the public, people who are not affiliated with IEEE, into the IEEE family to start acquainting them with the organization. So that's important to understand. All means these are available to anyone who logs in. They do have to get an IEEE web account. And then we have distinction based on membership status as well as volunteer. And these are our initial distinctions in the pilot. As we grow out and evolve, you'll start seeing the distinctions evolve as well. Critical to Collabratec is the fact that it is a user-defined experience. The user controls everything. The users identify their interests. The users determine which third-party services they want to attach. So really it is up to the user to configure that experience. As far as what is in Collabratec proper, the interface that IEEE has built, it's what's represented by this blue circle. The people sorting, the communities, the library research groups, activities, events, and recommendations. Beyond that, depending on which services a user depends to attach, then the experience is enhanced in Collabratec. And this goes back to the fact that we did not want to rebuild stuff that was already out there in the marketplace. How could we instead build an interface that would attach to those services and then try to integrate in the most seamless way possible with what we have built? Profile management, for those who have been in Collabratec, it really starts around the individual profile. Everybody has the ability to define their interests. It also recognizes various groups and memberships that the individual may have. We've tried to make it as seamless as possible, that if people already had an IEEE web account, that when you log in, some of the information is pre-filled out, so you wouldn't have to retype. There are a couple places, though, in the selection of technical interests where we thought it was best that people select and create a technical interest that might be more thorough than what we have in the tip codes, as well as to introduce, again, other taxonomies and interests to the user. Now, this is important when people choose their technical interest profile, because it starts driving the Collabratec experience. Based on the profile, your technical interest, it starts determining perhaps what events show up in your activity feed, what people get recommended to you based on common interests. So the interest profile is quite important. We also recognize the importance of privacy. So when you're within the profile section of IEEE Collabratec, each user can control their profile visibility on different elements of their profile. So who can see your photo, who can see your interests, who can see your mailing address, a series of drop-down menus, and there's a key to the side that tells you about the visibility settings, how broad you want the information in your profile to be seen. If a user decides to set that to public, then basically the search engines will index that, and someone could perhaps go out to a Google search on your name, and your stub of your profile might come up on a Google search. But again, the user determines what they want out there and what they don't. From a professional networking standpoint with the people, this is very typical of what one expect in a professional network or a social network. We didn't go out to reinvent the wheel as far as the key attributes. What you will notice, however, is we paid special attention to make sure our members have distinction in their identity within the platform. So if you're a member, it'll automatically assign the kite and the diamond that recognizes who you are as well as your grade within the organization. It'll also call out other things such as your section. So right up front, we wanted to create an identity differentiation so that our members have higher identity, a more distinct identity within the experience. We also have the ability right from the people area to do some search faceting so that you can go in and sort and search by many different facets, and Justine will talk about that later on. So once individuals begin creating networks, and by show of hands, who is in Collabratec already?
I'm experimenting with it now.
Okay. Good. We need you to make sure you give us a long list of where we can improve.
I'm running into them now.
Okay. And some of which, by the way, if you're having connection issues, as I mentioned, it might be better to connect with a hotel hotspot because it's created issues with links that didn't work properly before. So right from the network, if you send an invitation or receive an invitation, you can manage those from your My Network. So all your connections, if you have pending requests, those who have initiated a request to connect, they would show up under the pending request tab. One of the features of Collabratec is the ability to have communities, and around the community area, again going back to the sample that we used for the pilot, we try to have a cross-section of geographic, technical, persona-based. And in Collabratec, what we'll show you in the communities is those that are yours, those that you have gone to join, as well as those that you are eligible for. And some communities may be exclusive by virtue of your membership of the organization. And again, that would be different depending on the user logging in. In trying to enhance the Collabratec experience without reinventing the wheel, attached services is critically important. So what Collabratec allows each user to do is to determine which services they would like to attach with it. For the pilot, we're starting with Google, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and actually working. So Collabratec, you can go in as a user and you can attach these services to your Collabratec account. That will do a couple of things. One, it will enhance the Collabratec experience, especially when you attach Google, because some of the features and the community space, as well as the collaborative offering, there's a Google backend suite to do that. But what it also does, for example, with the LinkedIn, when you attach LinkedIn, your LinkedIn feed will automatically start coming into your Collabratec feed. So it starts serving as an aggregator function, so that once you link these other social networks, your feeds from those will start coming into Collabratec. And it's marked. If the post was over on LinkedIn, you'll see the little LinkedIn icon there, so that the user knows where these activities are coming from. The activity stream is really the home page of the site when you log in. It really is the things that are taking place that are of relevance to you. The activity feed gives each user the ability to sort it, whether it's activities taking place related to connections, events, news updates, or just those from the services that you've attached. So the user can come in and decide how much they want to see at any given time. Now on to communities. Won't repeat this again. We wanted to test a number of different types of communities, and that's where we are. Some of them are technically oriented, some of them are geo-based, and some are event-oriented. As it relates to the geo-based communities, we took the philosophy in the onset that we needed to develop communities around the way the world knows the world. It was not the intent within Collabratec to reinvent the IEEE organization structure. So if we launched a geographic community, we named it after the city, not necessarily the section. Now in some cases, we know some sections have the same name as the city, but that's not the case throughout the world. So in order to build a solution that was globally acceptable, we said, just use the city. One, it's the way the world knows the world. And two, it gives great flexibility. So if you're a section that's an entire country, which is often what actually runs into in Europe, one section may want to have 5 or 6 different communities or different cities within that space. But that's a phenomenon that can be repeated even here in the United States. We have big sections with large geographic areas. So Collabratec gives the section the ability to have any number of communities that it wants to have. You may have a pocket of activity that's taking place off in a city that you never have an opportunity to have in-person events. What it gives you the ability is minimally you can put a community experience available for them, so that the local members can start congregating, even if it's virtually, and then perhaps spawning out of that will be some in-person activities.
So the sections then need to sponsor communities, or
yeah, just
so there needs to be a request from the section to.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because we want to make sure that these communities are being professionally managed. We don't want an individual to come in and necessarily represent an activity. So that's why we've been partnering very closely with the sections. It's really up to the section if they want to have a community collaborative. And
because I'm thinking like I'm southern area chair in Los Angeles. We've got maybe 5 sections in the city. And so I'm wondering how that could work.
Just to confirm this, but communities can be co-sponsored by multiple.
They can be
Correct. For example, our Washington, D.C. community is an effort of both the Washington section as well as the Northern Virginia section. So there is the ability that you can have multiple, and we encourage multiple moderators, and coming in and working from multiple sections as well.
Okay, thank you.
So it works both ways. You can either have a section responsible for multiple communities, or you can have one community that is a joint effort among several sections.
Yeah, okay, well, that would make sense for Ryan.
Again, just to repeat where we were, we did work with the volunteer leadership to go out and identify which communities we should get going for the pilot. And just to reiterate, it really is dependent on the volunteer leadership to determine how it wants to participate. Once the section has made that commitment, yes, we'd like to do it, and then they will work jointly with Justine, and she has a very excellent process to walk them through what they need to do, what training they should go through, and prepping them for the responsibility of moderator. And that was part of the planning that we recognized up front. And for those that have had communities, if you don't have dedicated moderation, someone who's attending to it, communities tend to languish. So that's why going into this, to have a community, we have to have a commitment to have moderators, or we'll know the outcome when we know. So that's why we put these quality control issues in there right up front. When you look at a community, I'm showing you sort of a functional view. It's important to understand that a community in the Collabratec experience is an integrated experience. And really it's an integration between capabilities that are within Collabratec proper, as well as those that are extended through the G+ attachment. So this goes back to the board's philosophy: don't go and reinvent the wheel that already exists out there. So for users, it's up to them. If they do not attach their Google account, they will have a core set capability. If they do attach their Google account, then they'll have access to the G+ community and all of the features that come with it. So that's really a user choice on how they want to engage the platform. But what it allows IEEE to do is to, again, try to create a seamless experience without building stuff that has already been built out there. I showed you a functional view before. This is actually what the user experience looks like. And again, what you're seeing using Washington, D.C. as an example, participants, features, some of which have not been built yet. That's why we're a pilot. Within Collabratec, and then with the ability of the extended experience, where you can jump right from Collabratec right out to the G+ community that has all of the other features related to it. And this is an example of what a G+ community looks like. You'll notice that for continuity, we brought the same picture of the community over in this environment, so that when the user's going back and forth in between, there's continuity as far as some aesthetics. And then this is just the key capability set of Google+, G+ communities. So individuals can not only come into the G+, but then there's the link that takes them back to the corresponding community in Collabratec. As far as discoverability, individuals will come into Collabratec, and then by virtue of going into the community, then they'll have the G+ extension right there. So really, people get to the G+ community by coming through Collabratec to that point. That way we can control access as far as permissions. That if you're not authorized to come into a community because you don't have a membership per se, then by extension you won't be able to get into the G+ community. I touched on this before. We'll skip through this. Other than to note that users will have a role in playing on the expansion of usage of Collabratec as much as we who are pushing out the marketing. So Justine will show you how that's done later on. As far as the features and time frame, as of the pilot, these are the features that we have right now within the communities. During the pilot phase, now through the April-May time frame, we'll be looking to add additional capabilities. As important, incorporating and test user feedback. So it's very important to us. We aren't planning on going out with a big marketing push until we feel comfortable as an organization that, one, we've incorporated user feedback that's coming back to us, as well as we have key capabilities set in the platform. So this will be an iterative process as we go forward with the development teams. So I'm going to stop there before we go into the hands-on and just take any questions as far as why we're doing this and where we are. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Jive. I don't know if you are.
I'm not.
Okay. I guess from a use case scenario, I'm wondering how, I think you're going to show some of this in the hands-on, but how if I'm working with Joe, let's say, on a paper, how I can collaborate with him and upload files and so forth, so that we're working on that.
Okay. That actually can be done through a research group.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't touch on that because of the space of time. I couldn't get into all of the capabilities set. But in the tutorial, there's a section on research groups. And individuals can go into research groups. They also have libraries where they can start importing documents, creating folders and libraries within Collabratec. And then really a research group is when you can invite other people in and then point to documents that you may have in the library.
So are those stored on a Google Drive? Are they stored on an IEEE Collabratec site?
So that I don't give you a wrong answer, I'll have to get back to you. So some of it is stored in Google Docs, if that's where it originated as the file. A lot of it depends on where the file originated. If it originated as a Google Doc, then that's the one it would point to. If it was one that was a PDF, then it would point to whatever native file was uploaded.
Stepping back, it looks like IEEE recognized that they'd like to have, how shall I say, listen to the youngest members and meet their needs. And I'm stepping back and I'm thinking, okay, so I got 2,300 contacts on LinkedIn. What am I going to use Collabratec? It seems like it's oriented more towards authors than simple social networking. Am I correct?
I would say it's focused more on professional networking than social networking.
If I step back, and I've been a member for 45 years, the two biggest value propositions we have as any professional society are keep learning new stuff and networking. And this is an attempt to answer the second question.
Well, from a professional networking standpoint, what we've learned through our LinkedIn group, and we've actually surveyed the LinkedIn users, is one, they would like a space where they can connect with the IEEE folks.
And this replaces something that used to be under my IEEE, right?
Where we are with my IEEE, and this is what we have to assess next, there's two things. One is MemberNet, which is the entire IEEE active membership of IEEE. And that's within my IEEE. It can't replace MemberNet, not right now, because the reason is each member has to give permission to go in and set up their account. When we first started this project, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we just migrated all the members and get them, basically take MemberNet.
Yeah, that's sort of an obvious question.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Because legal informed us because of privacy issues, especially in Europe, that you cannot just take, even though it's a product where they are, you just can't take their profile and stick it over here without their permission.
One of the killer applications for middle-aged people like me for Google Glasses is that their facial recognition is so good that they can recognize somebody and whisper in your ear who that person is, right? But in many parts of Europe, that's considered a privacy violation. It's not allowed there. And it's not allowed here because people haven't noticed yet.
So, anyway, long story short, we saw the great potential. We were going down that path. Then when legal said, no, we have to be respectful that if people want to be visible in a platform with their profile, they have to go in there and do that. We can't just go and take their information and load it up. So, believe me, that was a hard setback.
Fair enough.
That was a hard setback because we knew what that would mean as far as what we'd have to do on the marketing side to compensate.
Well, the flip side is, obviously you want some opt-in method. You want to be able to go to the membership when they renew, or by some other means say, hey, we're building this new tool. You want to opt into this. Or you could even put an opt-in button on the My IEEE space and say, do you want to go join this? And it'll take you off to where you can sign up.
Glad you brought that up.
Work.
Glad you brought that up. That's actually on the roadmap to do. Once we get ready for the big push.
For you, I guess.
No, actually, he wasn't paid, folks. No, once we get ready for the big push, then you will start seeing links and integrations. In fact, over on IEEE Explore, they are going to discontinue the file cabinet as it's built over there. And they are going to start pushing everybody over to Collabratec, use the library and research group capability.
That's important because the other big value proposition for these things is learning new stuff. And I see so many barriers between ordinary practitioners and what's on Explore right now. So anything that brings the value of Explore close to the end users is a good thing.
Yeah. So, again, going back to that slide said the great potential, building on who we are. The challenge for actually is we've never had a singular platform where the people can come in and then start engaging in different parts. So this is a philosophical change that really, the approach of Collabratec is an experience built on people first. Everything else is an application. Whether
Have you considered, let's suppose you find somebody and they are, let's say, several of the social media that I found want me to suck everything in, distribute it in that other system. And I would think that, I don't know if it'd be allowed or not, but a tool that let me connect to all my IEEE people through Collabratec would be quite valuable, I would think.
Yeah. It is, in fact, the ability to import. We discussed that during the development phase, but again, in fact, there's a lawsuit right now with a well-known social network on just opening up and letting people just grab and take all their stuff and running it into a new one. So that actually
More privacy. Yes.
More privacy, yeah. So we respect and restrain that as an organization, and just want to launch this right. I mean, there's lots of quick things we could do to goose it up and get a lot of people in there, but we are exercising tremendous restraint as an organization.
I applaud you for that.
I apologize, just before we answer your question, just a couple points that I wanted to mention as well. Along with linking new members to the site, I've already been speaking with my colleague Denise Maestri, who handles new member orientation, and we're going to implement IEEE Collabratec to that orientation so new members know the benefit of IEEE Collabratec. And to quickly comment on the LinkedIn as well, we realize that LinkedIn is a great platform that a lot of people use it. So that's one of the reasons why we included it as the attached services that you can add. But previously what we experienced is we, as IEEE, don't have control over LinkedIn. There were a lot of things that we wanted to use LinkedIn for. We went to them and said, can we do this? And they basically said, no. What's great about Collabratec is we own this, we built it. So as we get feedback from you and other members, we're able to implement that feedback so the networking is most beneficial to you as an IEEE member.
So is there bi-directional communication to LinkedIn? Is something that I put up on Collabratec going to show up on LinkedIn?
No, only if you share it out. I mean, only if you decide to share it out. Yes.
Okay. I am sensitive to IEEE trying to bring in all the people and everything, and I'm also sensitive to us old geezers being dropped off the end of the earth because they come up with so much that we can't keep up with it. I've actually been blessed to be able to keep up with most of it. What I'm seeing here is you start out with a social network. You got Facebook up here, but it's so big, it covers so many areas, it's useless. You step down a little bit, now you go into LinkedIn, and I'm just using these as general, but you're focused in more on your professional type thing, but still for IEEE, volunteers, and so on and so forth, it's still unwieldy. So I'm seeing you guys coming in with Collabratec, where we are focused pretty much on IEEE. We're not limiting, but that's the focus. We focus in so that now our volunteers and people can have a much easier way of working with this. We bring new people in, we train our more mature members to use it. I'm just hoping that this doesn't become a Microsoft Office, where I want to go use a word processor and can't because there's so many complexities in there that by the time I'm done, I can't get the document out because it's this, we got to work it for everybody in the world to do every possible thing, and you lose your focus.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. And to point well taken, this is a niche network. It is a niche network. We don't want to become a generalist network. That we want something that serves the profession by the professionals, and it's their place where they can come. I mean, they certainly can pop out to the other networks when they want that, but when they want to engage with people who understand them, who are very close and niche focused, that this is a place where they can do that. At the same time, though, we can't, we don't want to shut ourselves and wall ourselves off from all these other networks. And that's why we've taken very deliberate strides to make sure that we connect ourselves so that if you come and see a profile, and oh, by the way, they are on LinkedIn, you can easily pop off and go to LinkedIn to make that happen. So we started this right up front. The reality is the professional networks are already out there. It's not our objective to replace them. In fact, we have no interest in doing that. They're doing quite well at it. But how can we do a good job at just making ourselves compatible with what's already there, but offering a niche focus for people who are within our profession, without walling it off, so we not allow other people who may not be members not to come in and participate. So it was very delicate how we pull that together in such a way that we recognize what's there already, but build something that we need as an organization, but also with a much more niche focus. Thank you.
So LinkedIn has a lot of IEEE membership communities. So are there plans to start encouraging users in Collabratec? Because now if you have different users on LinkedIn and different users on Collabratec, and I'm trying to reach out to a certain group, now I can see multiple places on Google. And that's a little annoying.
That really is driven by the sections. I mean, each section sort of has to come up. It's not like we are, the Collabratec is forcing people to do things. Really, it's up to the section and the section strategy. I'll use a section per se. Technical activities may have something else. To say, okay, we have this already. And by the way, our communities link out. So if a section already has a community out there on these sites, we have the ability in Collabratec right from a community to point right to that out there in that space.
Again, how do you mean by that? Because if I put something out on a community, let's say it's Region 6 community, does that get, let's say, posted to the Region 6 LinkedIn community?
We'll come back to that one, Justine as a hands on. What I meant by that is if you go into a community, let's say Central Texas section had a community on LinkedIn. Austin launches a community. Right within the community, from the community navigation, if there is a section, community on LinkedIn already there, we can put a link so that right from that community you can jump from one to another. That's different than you as a user posting information and then proliferating out. Okay.
Could this be used very similar to what we would think in terms of a website, where it's someplace that we can put something and have people go and look at it? In which case, just like with a website, you have a webmaster. It's not intended that everybody knows absolutely everything about it, but if you have one or two people within your organization that can keep this thing going, then it can add that power to it, to where you can set things up and you can set within your own organization how to communicate with your own people. Then you still have the capabilities of going outside that, bring others in, and so forth.
I think what's going to happen is, different organizations are going to assess differently. If your section has a website, you may start deciding, you know what, we're going to stop doing this type of stuff over on the website, and we're going to push the interactive stuff over to the community. Right. I think every section is going to come to a different assessment on how it wants to do that. Am I saying that a Collabratec community will replace the section website? No. I think there's other static information that a website has that has nothing to do with interactivity. But if there's interactive components on the session website, and if the session believes, for this suite of stuff that we have, it'd really be nice just to link it directly right to the Collabratec community. That may be the decision the section takes. But I'd be reluctant to come up with one solution for all sections because they're all in different spaces.
How do you manage event?
Event feeds. Presently in Collabratec, the event feeds come from two locations. vTools, events that are uploaded in vTools, and for conferences, it's those that are hosted in the ICX, IEEE ICX conference database system. So by virtue of using vTools and by virtue of the ICX conferences database being updated and managed, that's what then provides the feeds into Collabratec. So, yes.
Along those lines, is there, and I'm making this, is there a radius search associated with that? So,
Not right now. That is something we have to look at from a artificial association perspective. It's not there now. It certainly is in the bundle of feedback. And again, if that's a feature that you think would be helpful, I would encourage you to use the feedback.
okay, so it looks like it's very specific. So, for instance, if I search for something in Salt Lake City, Murray, which is a suburb of Salt Lake City, doesn't show up.
I believe so, but let me get back to you.
Okay.
Shoot that to me.
I got that.
Okay, shoot that to me. And that to me also to the feedback, because if I can't get back because I'm traveling, I want to make sure somebody gets back to you with an answer.
Feedback link is more feedback, right?
It is or it's not? It's not now, it was before. Okay. That may be the internet connectivity for sure. I don't know. Okay, any more questions about yes, sir?
Just have a comment on that, since a couple of the website things came up, section websites in the secrets, right? So I'm looking at it from a different way, from Santa Clara Valley. We have a section website that's also accessed by non-IEEE, right? Which, of course, if you answer those questions, if you cannot use it, then this will replace that, because then this is accessible only for IEEE.
No, it's not.
Right? No, it's open, so what do you sign in?
With an actual web account.
But then you need an actual.
Well, you need an actual web account.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
But you do not need to be a member of the organization. Actually, web accounts you do not need to be a member of IEEE to get an actual web account.
But you're adding a step in there that most people aren't going to take.
Yes, you do have to have an IEEE web account.
Yes,
But there's no membership requirement with IEEE.
but what I'm saying is it's not, whereas the other one's completely open, right? So if someone wants to just know about the section and show up or something.
Understood. And in part, that's because in order to accommodate some of our existing users, who have web accounts and can pre-populate their account, it was just from an efficiency standpoint for the people we already serve, if we could make it as efficient as possible.
So I think I can say something about where you're going with this. That is, if we create a group within Collabratec, and is it have the capability of pulling the feed from our Santa Clara website?
Not at the present time, unless it's no. I mean, unless that same information that's going into your Santa Clara feed is populated by vTools. I don't know what's constituted in the feed. Okay, at this point, that's what we're using as the feed. Right. Yes.
So, separate initiative, we're now arranging to record our sessions with the slide deck and the audio, right? We had lots of training on this yesterday, for those boxes. Now, I've given probably 70 or 80 talks in IEEE in the last 24 years. And up until recently, I wasn't able to record them. That's creating new content. And we collect from our conference proceedings and our magazines, papers that are supposed to show up here under publications. Will we, looking ahead, make way to capture presentations that we make and attach them here as well? Do you follow what I'm saying?
We will if there's a critical mass of demand.
Right, well, we're starting that initiative to capture that stuff. Just
And the chapters.
What?
I'm talking about the chapter talks.
Yeah.
Chapters and conferences.
And comments. Yeah.
The one challenge that we're eventually going to get into is it's natural, organically it grows this way, is how do we, as an organization, settle on a common taxonomy for tagging? And that's important from the user standpoint, because when the user comes in and sets up their interest in their profile, how do we, as an organization, implement the discipline that when we have a piece of content, it could be a video, that we're using the tagging structure that will ensure that if someone has an interest in that topic, that goes up and is presented to them as an opportunity. And that doesn't have to be solved now, but
But
it
the
is.
flip side, on one hand, I was talking about how we get into the system, and you're asking the right question. If someone else is interested in that, how do they find you?
That's right. And that is something that Collabratec is pushing this on the enterprise. The great thing about having users coming in is self-defining their interests. And we have a taxonomy, although it's a work in progress. If our assets and our opportunities and our media is not tagged like that, we're less than optimized as far as matching the user to what we have. I mean, the great opportunity about this is it really opens up the fact that I, as a member in Santa Clara Valley, could benefit from a webinar that's being produced in Chicago, by Chicago section. I mean, this whole thing about geographic boundaries really goes out the door. You can have multiple inputs from different parts of the world on a topic that could be exposed to someone else. I mean, we ran into this with, in fact, Ron Jensen wasn't here, but he some of the webinars they used to put on in the Twin Cities section. And during one of the webinars, they had these two folks from Germany who came, and they couldn't figure out how they found out and how they got there. Not that they cared, but it was because they went into V-Tools, the webinar, which went out into my IEEE. And apparently these couple members in Germany took an interest in the topic and they registered for the webinar. So, getting our head around the great opportunity here that we aren't really bound by geography. What we're really more bound by is the disciplines of an organization.
Not to mention the time zone.
And time zones, yes. To think about not only our content, but how we tag that content so that it matches up with the users who are coming in and self-defining their interests.
So in going back to Joe's point, if your paper is tagged, I'm assuming that happens when you publish a paper.
It does on the Explore side.
Right. So let's say I've got a presentation and I link it to that paper as an author, or even as a conference organizer, I take a video and I link it to that paper. Seems like you can just use the same tags, copy it on the
We could. What I don't know right now is where things are on the Explore side. Meaning they may build that capability, that attachment capability on that platform. Certainly if it gets done over there, anything that comes in and is matched up will come along with it. I just don't know right now where that type of attachment is.
Maybe that is a feature that we have to explore. The ability
It could be.
to add a presentation to the paper.
I know it's been a topic that they've been talking about in the publications board of IEEE. I just don't know where it is.
Similarly, the same thing. You got an EA, it's got tags associated with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And we should be able to cross-correlate and say, well, there was this meeting on this topic, this date, and we're going to go find out what was produced from that. I would, for example, people here in the San Diego section are saying, well, there's this meeting you should attend next week, or you're staying around. No, I'm not staying around. I have to go back to Seattle, but I would like to be able, at some point, to find their work and find the results of that meeting, which is now in the system, and read it. Because I can't be in San Diego and Seattle at the same time. I'm not good at it.
This question like that?
So another thing is, when we have a conference coming, just looking at it in particular with the upcoming GHTC later this year, is it possible where we set up something like communities for just a conference so that people who could attend that would be able to communicate with us at the conference, and you can have the agenda available there and so on,
It is possible. I do know that the technical activities staff have raised this capability, and we have the concept of like a persistent conference. When you launch a community before the conference, and you start inviting people in, so they can start creating some, networking before the
This is a
event.
huge thing, there's, like, I'm involved in the Consumer Electronics Society, right? And we have a whole bunch of international conferences, consumer electronics. There should be one or more communities on there for that. I'm busy with GHTC. There should be an ongoing community for that and all the other HTC conferences around the world. that's a crying need right now.
And that, I would suspect, I mean, that really isn't so much an issue from us in Collabratec. That's more an issue of how technical activities and the conference management, really it's the conference management activity of IEEE in that whole philosophy that we want to launch a community in conjunction with our conference. And how do we, I mean, we have the ability to pull it together here, but really it's more of a sort of a position and an approach from the conference side to do it.
And we are piloting that slightly with the, we're going to launch a Women in Leadership community sponsored by the Women in Engineering within MGA. And I know our conferences team is aware of Collabratec. We've been meeting with them and kind of, getting them prepared for what this can do for them and how they might want to integrate things.
So that's a good point, Justine. We're in the pilot. We're going to pilot this concept. So last year, WIE had its first international conference. They're going to be having another one this year. So they're deliberately launching a Women in Leadership community because the conference is Women in Leadership to serve as sort of the persistent place for the conference. So that we're going to be trying that out this year to see how that works.
We're not a minimum.
So independent of that, though, you can help us set up a community for GHTC, right? Meaning it doesn't have to come automatically and so on, but if you just want to set up a community for the new conference coming in October, you would help set up that community. Right?
Yes, either us or a colleague at technical activities.
Yeah, I would say along the lines that at a minimum, can you guys at least set up communities for all of our professional societies? Just do that.
That's really a society decision. Again, it's not really a technical. It's hard to.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, as I'm coming into this as a new user, I would expect to see some of these pre-populated, without regard to the society. I mean, I'm a member of 3 or 4 different societies. That's kind of standard across IEEE.
Yeah, really, where it is right now is it's really a society call. I mean, how do they want to play in this space? Do they just want to create a community that's their whole society, or do they want to focus on technical areas, just some more specialization of topics rather than being a large broad? That's really a decision of the society of how it wants to have that experience.
And just to keep in mind that we are in the pilot phase right now, and for strategic community growth decisions, when John mentioned earlier when he had that slide, that the way we started bringing people into Collabratec was that once we identified those communities, that we cross-referenced our database to make sure that we invited someone from Chicago who was also eligible to participate in big data, because we wanted them to come into the system and have things that were relevant to them, have communities that were relevant. But we recognize that now as we're growing and we're launching, unfortunately, you might come into the system but not see something that's initially of interest to you. But because we're in pilot, we, from a strategic standpoint of community development, don't want to have 1,000 communities on there right now, because we want to make sure strategically that the systems we have in place work both technically and tactically. So you will see more communities launching, more communities growing as there's more of a critical mass of interest on those topics or geographic areas.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, technical activities, actually the staff there, they have a whole bunch of other communities that are ready to go. They have just made the decision, until we build out the Q&A and the file posting feature set in the community, they'd rather wait, until those features are built before they go and invite a larger audience. So, I mean, we know we have known issues that we have to fix and we have to take. So, just get the stuff fixed. This is what the pilot's for. Get it fixed. Get the capabilities built. And then once they're there, then technical activities already have 3 other technical communities ready to go. So that's just a decision that they have made. Well, in the interest of time, Justine, why don't we go into the hands-on, which for many of you who are already running Collabratec will probably be review, but it may touch on some things that you haven't. So go ahead, Justine.
Thanks. So just so you know, we have about 15 minutes left, I believe. For anyone who has a device with them, you can use your laptop or mobile and we're tablet responsive as well. So IEEE Collabratec.org will bring you to the sign-in screen you see on the top right-hand corner. And if you are an IEEE member or if you already have your IEEE web account, you can click on the green sign-in button. And for anyone who comes to the page and does not, they are able to click on the blue button, which will take them to create their IEEE web account. So once you click on that sign-in button, you'll see a page where you can insert the email address and password associated with your IEEE account. Once you put in that information, the first sign-in screen that you will see is that you accept our IEEE Collabratec terms of use. And now, as this is the only screen that's required during the sign-in process, all of the other screens that I'm about to show you are optional during sign-in. However, taking the time to do it will optimize your IEEE Collabratec experience. And that's why the first screen you see is that interest profile where you can identify interest, so you get the recommendations for explore articles, for events, for communities. But if you want to skip that for sign-in, you can just click the green next button on the top. The next sign-in screen is where you're able to attach either your Google Apps at IEEE account or another Gmail or G+ account. Once again, it enhances the IEEE Collabratec experience, especially within the authoring and community areas. I would actually recommend skipping that for now. I know there were some issues with it last night, so there's once again the green not now button. We'll bypass that for you.
So then, the next time, or some future time, you're
Yes.
going to go to that screen every time. It isn't like this thing never shows up again.
Correct. Well, you won't see this specific screen, but there is an area within your profile where you can attach your Google account. And the same thing with interest. So that way, you know, let's say in a year from now you gain another interest, you can go back and you can edit that information as well in your profile. Then the last screen that you see is the communities. So these are the communities that have launched so far, and you can join them right from the screen, or you can click the green next button to get you into Collabratec. So once you go through that sign-in process, the first screen that you will see is your homepage. And I'm actually going to bring up my account so you can see this. If it's the first time you're hitting this page, you'll also notice that you will see a coaching screen. This was implemented because of user feedback. From some of our initial user testing, they said we would like some coaching screens that kind of highlight the key features on each page. So when you hit major pages on the site for the first time, you'll see screens that look like this that just highlight some of the features and why you might want to use them, what they do. And if you ever want to bring it back again, you can click the green bulb at the bottom and it highlights that. So the first screen I'm going to take you to is people. This is how you're able to connect with others who are already on the platform.
If I could interject, very important feature, and this is like the how do I get around the whole site? We call it the hamburger. This is the main menu bar. This is really the master navigation. So if you ever need to go back to another feature of the site, you launch it right from the menu.
Thank you. On the people page, as I said, it will list all of the users who have joined IEEE Collabratec. On the left-hand side of the screen is how you can search based upon different areas such as location, which includes country, and then if you click on USA, it also will bring up states, so you can do it that way, by community, by school, member grade, members and affiliations, as well as interest. If you have an interest in connecting with someone, you click the plus connect button and it'll inform you that you've sent a request to the person. They'll receive a notification. And once they accept your connection, it's going to appear as a manage button. So I know I am connected with John. And this is where you have the ability to ever remove a connection if you so choose. And also right under the connect or manage button, you have the ability to message the person as well. So once you start connecting with people, they'll be a part of your network. So by using the main navigation and going to my network, you can see, wow, my pending request, I'm popular today. The people in my network are all of the people who I've already joined and connected with. So you have the ability to message them right from here, or once again, manage that connection from my network. Pending requests are all of the people who have sent you a request to join. You'll get a notification in the header up here. That's probably, see, lots of people wanting to connect with me today. And you can accept the request right there.
Is there an SF button, or you have to click that for them?
Don't believe there's an accept all.
But that's a good suggestion, and let's take that back to the development team.
Thank you. If you are interested, when you do a people search, and let's say that person's not already in IEEE Collabratec, you can invite that person to join. You need to know their email address. So if you go to the little person with the plus sign next to your profile picture, it brings up invite your contact. So at this point, you can invite via email. You can click on the email button, insert an email address. When you click continue, it brings up a pre-populated message that you can use to send it, or you can customize and say whatever you would like to try to encourage the person to join you on IEEE Collabratec. Attach services. When you go to the main navigation and go to settings, this is where you're able to attach all those different accounts. So for example, if you skipped the attaching your Google account during sign up, this is where you're able to do that again. As you can see here, the first set you will see is anything that you've already attached. So I've attached my Google account, so you see my Drive is accessible, as well as G+. I have also attached my LinkedIn and my Twitter. Beneath that, I see services that I've yet to connect. So if you're interested, you click the plus connect button, say add it, and it will take you through the process of attaching that third party.
Go back. Where is that? Where do you find that attached?
How do you access it? You go to the main navigation, that little hamburger, and settings.
Okay.
Now let's say you want to remove it. You attached a Google account, but now you actually want to attach another. By manage, you can remove it, and then once again reconnect it in order to attach another account. Communities. So once again, main navigation, going down to communities. The screen's going to appear different for different users as you go through the process. Now, for example, I am a member of all 21 communities that are currently launched on IEEE Collabratec, so it displays all the communities that you're a participant of. If it's your first time logging into the system, you'll see a very different screen, somewhat different screen, because it's going to show you communities that you might want to participate in. So for all of our geo communities, they're open to everyone, so you can click the a button to add that community by. It's going to be a process of you click on the community, you click access now, it'll grant you community. Based on your IEEE memberships, it'll also show you communities you're eligible to join based on those memberships. So some of the topical communities that technical activities have launched. When you go into a community, I'm going to go into Chicago. This is what the community landing page looks like. It gives you a little bit of detail about the community. Shows you who this community is provided by, so our Chicago section. And you can see some of the participants in the community in this module, as well as in the participants tab. Here's an easy way where you can connect with new people, for example. So you might not know all of these people, but you share an interest. So everyone here has an interest in the Chicago area in one way or another. Same thing with the topical community. So you can create new connections this way. You can also manage the connections that you've already made. Events also come into the communities. For our geo communities, the events are near that area. So these are events in and around Chicago. For our topical communities, those events are of a nature of a topic related to that community. That's how we pull those in. Over here is where you see the G+ community. If you haven't attached a G Plus account already, you can attach it via this module. It'll look a little different. The button will instruct you to attach G Plus. You can also request an invitation to the G Plus community. I've already done that, so mine links me directly to the G Plus community, and I thought I logged in before the presentation started, but I guess I didn't. So once you're in the G Plus community, that's where you'll see a lot of the activity occurring, especially during the pilot phase right now. A lot of the discussions. And what's really interesting about it is we're already seeing in the pilot some of the different ways that different communities are using these communities. The content varies. So for example, in the author community, we have IEEE staff who is putting out information related to the authoring process related to IEEE. And we have people going on and asking questions about the authoring process, so they're able to get their answers right away. And then for our geo communities, we're having some of our moderators are putting out articles related to industry news, upcoming section meeting information, upcoming webinars. So you'll see a lot of varied topics depending on which communities you join. We already went through the coaching schemes, which is good. And just to let you know, there's support available. So for any user of IEEE Collabratec, our contact center website, which is accessible in the footer of Collabratec, they have an extensive, so even if you just click help, it'll take you right to the contact center page where you see a lot of FAQs that we've written about particular interests of IEEE Collabratec. And then if you can't find the answer to your specific question, if you do the different contact methods over here, you will be connected with someone in the contact center who will either be able to answer your question or get you connected to the right person who can. And just to point out that we also have support for anyone who becomes a moderator. For any, okay, I apologize, we are being told that I have to end. So as you leave, I'm going to just put up our email addresses once again, so if you need to reach out to us, or you can do it on Collabratec itself.
So we have to vacate the room.
No,
Oh, okay.
you're gonna just,
You can keep talking.
We can keep talking, okay.
I just wanted to know if you hear that call.
Okay. Before we take questions on that, so now I'm separating from presenter. This is the first time that we come out to a region to give this overview. I asked those who were doing this, how is the scope and depth of the information? Was it too broad, too much? You never know how in deep you can get on anything with the time you have. But just a general question, because your feedback is important, because we're going to be going out to other regions. So what's your comments?
yeah, I think you created, a desire for me to really look into this, and probably sign up. And I think with your document here, it should be, hopefully this explain things in detail.
Quick pitch, those documents are also available online. When you access that footer down the bottom where that help link was, there's also a user guide that has even more information and includes those PDFs as well if you ever misplace them. And I know you won't.
Well, I was going through here, I discovered that we have the capability of having our own personalized URL for collaborators. And I created mine. So it brings it to my page.
Thanks. Any other comments on the scope of the presentation? Too much? Anything? Was there anything there that, from an introductory standpoint, you wish that would have been there?
I guess I was pretty comfortable with it, just kind of an overview. I didn't get this all read last night, so I'm kind of slow on going through that stuff.
Okay, that's fine.
My computer wasn't wanting to talk to the outside world very well.
Yes.
I want to ask you guys yesterday, so you will have something like 2 to 3 slide condensed version, right? And we can use back to our section with our areas.
Yes, and not only that, but we'll offer, just in point person, if you'd like to go back to your section and have a webinar, with folks in your section, we can pull something together. Obviously, if we get enough sections that want that, we'll probably roll it up so that we can have a few sections all put together. But we certainly make ourselves available. Yeah, we do have like that couple of pages.
Looks like this is something that could be presented to the WebEx.
Yes,
Are you available to do that? Reschedule it?
Yes.
Yeah,
This looks like it could be perfect. I've got several sections that I'm hoping to get interested in across LA.
the handout. Yeah, do we have any more handouts?
Hopefully there's more on the table.
There should be outside stuff.
Here's one of the tip sheets.
Justine, I need some individual counseling on this.
Okay.
So I'd like to I'm setting up something where I'm going to train different sections on how to do something.
Okay.
And I'd like the Orange County section to have an area, San Diego to have an area, Oregon to have an area. Is that something Collabratec does? I can set up maybe the research groups. I was in the earlier thing. Would I set up research groups and get people to join these, and then I can use them for driving a project?
Yeah, so the research groups, they are all done, they're driven by you. So that's,
They're pretty closed, they're just for people
my
involved.
only hesitation with that is, do you know how large these groups are going to be?
Well, these are probably about 6 or 8 people. This might be about 20 to 50. This, because people in India may be in this, I'll be working with New York or Chicago. Each of these will be probably 6, 8, 9, 10.
There are
They're a
currently
good
some
size.
restrictions on how many people can be in a research group. So that's why.
So maybe these could be research groups, and this might be some other kind of a thing.
That might be a community.
Nothing secret. I mean, they could community out of this and have research groups for these.
That would probably be what I'm thinking. The research groups are very interactive right now. They're collaborative. So like, this document, comment on them. So depending on what you're visioning with it, that might be the way to go.
This could be a community, so I can name it. People can ask to join. I guess they can join. But so I could develop my own landing page for that and everything, for what our purpose, the reason of this community, that sort of thing.
Correct. And if you either contact me or give me your email address, I can follow up with you.
I'll follow up with you by email.
Okay, perfect. And then just keeping in mind that, I don't know your timing for this because we are in the pilot phase. Certain community capabilities aren't very.
These are probably starting up in the spring. So it's fairly soon.
The research groups are pretty robust at this point. I would say
So I could
that-
get them going in here. This over the next year would get more capabilities, but I could use it as a information area, if not for work.
I apologize. I just want to get my stuff
Go ahead and
off,
get your stuff
so I
cleaned up.
can. Thank you.
Hey, Mark,